AT, I think I'm on my sixth cup of coffee. I'm at Granny's Kitchen in Stillwater. This is where Arkansas and Oklahoma will battle tomorrow at 11 o'clock our time. I know that's a game that you'll have on your eyes as well. And, man, it really feels like this is an opportunity for Arkansas to, I think, show that they can play physical football, the kind of football they'll need to play once they start playing SEC teams.
Zero doubt. First of all, guys, excited to be with you as always. Phil enjoys Stillwater. Make sure you mix in some water there, okay? We don't need you, we need to get you through the weekend. But, no, I'm as intrigued about this game as pretty much any, and it's for all the reasons everybody knows why, is that, listen, I don't think there's a lot of teams that maybe can make like a national statement on Saturday. I think, Texas, Michigan, whoever wins that game, one of them's awesome. I don't think one of them is like the worst team that's ever existed. Whatever. I don't think that a result in Kentucky, Tennessee, or Kentucky, South Carolina fundamentally changes how we feel about those teams. I do think Arkansas can make a statement, though. Obviously, Oklahoma State is a good team, but listen, the defense wasn't very good last year. They gave up plenty of yards to South Dakota State, and I know that South Dakota State is quite literally the best team at the FCS level. But Oklahoma isn't a team without flaws, even though they're in the top 25. I think top 15, as a matter of fact. So I'm intrigued. I'm curious. You don't want to oversell what we saw in Week 1 against Pine Bluff. But, listen, we did see a lot of good football from Arkansas, and I am hopeful that it continues tomorrow in Stillwater.
Hey, Aaron, with the Texas-Michigan game, I know you brought that up. If Texas beats Michigan, is there a way that you think you could see them jumping to number 1 in the country?
Michigan? Texas? Listen, I don't know how, all these pollsters are going to react. I mean, the good thing is, listen, we don't really have to live in this hypothetical world anymore where if Texas was in the Big 12, we don't have to wonder how good they would really be, blah, 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 this and that. They play Georgia here in a few weeks, about a month from now, as a matter of fact, so we're going to find out pretty soon. I would find it hard to believe that they would jump everybody, including Georgia, barring, of course, teams losing, just because Georgia has that great win over Clemson. But I think they'd certainly get some votes, and I think they'd be in the conversation. And the one thing I will say, again, you don't want to overreact to one game in Week 1, but was very impressed by Texas, not only with the win, but especially with the way their defense played against Colorado State, a team that can move the football, have proven they can move the football. But that is one, obviously, it'll be a two-screen kind of day at 11 a.m. Central Time, because I will have that Hogs game on, as well as, obviously, the big one, Michigan-Texas.
One of the things about this point of the season that we used to think is you lose a game, you're out. You're out of the playoff race. And I think right now there's one team that's really eliminated, and it's Florida State. But when you're a league like the Big 12, and you've got one of your leading teams that could win it in Oklahoma State playing against an SEC team, this is an important game for that league specifically, as well, of course, as it is for Oklahoma State, because. Look, if you win the Big 12 championship game, you're in, and you get a bye. But there is the going thought that the ACC right now looks like a one-bid league. Does the Big 10 get 4? Does the SEC get 4? You get your group of 5, and you just kind of wonder, the Big 12, would this be a year they could get 3, potentially, if the ACC only gets 1? A game like this is big, especially for a team like the Cowboys if they don't win the Big 12 championship.
Oh, there's no doubt. And listen, I think we all like what we saw against Arkansas, or against Arkansas Pine Bluff the other day. But, realistically, I hope I'm not, being too negative here, but I think a best-case scenario for Arkansas is a middle-of-the-pack team. So it's not in the SEC, that is. So it's not like if you lose this game, it's almost like the Miami situation. It's like, if Miami had lost that game last week, which they obviously didn't, you're not only losing, but you're losing to a team that we mostly view as a bottom half of the SEC type team. And I think it's the same with Oklahoma State, where if they don't win the Big 12, if they are, say, 10-2 or 10-3 with a loss in the Big 12 championship game, if Arkansas does not perform well in the SEC, that could be a loss that kind of hangs with Oklahoma State all season long. And so I am fascinated, Bill, especially for the Big 12 and the ACC, You have very few opportunities against the other two power conferences, if you want to call those the Power Four. You just don't get a lot of opportunities against, the SEC, specifically the Big Ten, whatever, to really prove that you are on equal footing. And so I think if you're Oklahoma State, you can't not take advantage of that. By the way, I think NC State's got a little bit of that on Saturday night. And lastly, what I'll say is, I know I'm going a little bit long here, I also think it's kind of an interesting conversation with Texas and Michigan as well, where you have, say, if Michigan loses to Texas, Texas goes on to win the SEC. I think Michigan would be rewarded if they were, say, 9-3 and going up against, somebody else that's 9-3 that maybe didn't challenge themselves in the out of conference. So we're all kind of resetting our brains as to what you need to do and where you need to do it and all that. But I think, to your point, the results that we see in week 1, week 2 are going to still have season-long implications.
Aaron, I want to get your thoughts on that USC LSU game last week. I thought possibly USC could have been the most impressive team in my eyes, and then with LSU laying another egg in week 1, how do you see those two teams going this year?
Yeah, I thought USC could win. But I thought even if they won, even if the defense was a little bit better, it would still have to be in that 37-31, 37-34 type range. I'm with you, Matt. That was as impressive a performance, I think, in week 1 as you could possibly find. Not just because USC beat LSU and all that, but because it was the defense that really carried them. And like I said, I thought that, I thought USC would be better because if you remember, after Caleb Williams opted out of the bowl game last year, the kid Miller Moss played in the bowl game and threw 6 touchdown passes. And you kind of said, okay, Lincoln Riley, for all the criticism, he still knows how to develop an offense, develop quarterbacks, etc. But can the defense be improved enough where they're competitive? And so all of a sudden, it is interesting. I know we say one game doesn't mean as much as it used to. I think it does change the perspective a little bit for USC, is that, listen, they got to go to Michigan in a few weeks, but Michigan didn't look as good as people think. Penn State, Notre Dame late in the year are both at home. And so, again, what we just mentioned with Texas and Michigan, if USC finishes the year 10-2, 9-3, to the point that Bill brought up earlier, they challenged themselves out of conference. They have a win that I think is going to hold up. I think LSU will still be in that 9-3, 10-2 range. Again, I think everybody thinks that, nothing in week 1 matters, to your guys' point, I don't think anybody is really eliminated in week 1, but I do think there is this scenario where these big wins and maybe potentially even bad losses could kind of stay with you all season long.
We were all taken aback, and we'll finish here on a college basketball topic. We're all taken aback by the firing of almost the entire assistant staff at Memphis. I think that was a couple of days ago. And it turns out I haven't been able to peruse over this letter of allegations of violations, massive amounts of violations apparently. But this also seems to be like this. If this would have come out 4 months ago, Penny'd be gone. But it would have been fired. But in that case, not now, because then you got to open up the portal for 30 days. And who knows if you even have a team left after that. But what's going on in Memphis, Aaron?
Phil, it's weird. It's been weird. I was a guy. Listen, Memphis is one of those programs. That city loves that school. Obviously, Penny Hardaway, the name carries cachet. And I really thought about 2.5 years ago, they were finally headed in the right direction. If you remember, it was not this past, I guess it would have been the 2022 season, maybe. It was the year Arkansas beat Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, because Gonzaga the game before played Memphis, and Memphis gave them all they could handle. And there was a couple questionable calls late. Memphis could have won the game, whatever, they didn't. And so you felt like it was finally going in the right direction. But again, you just look back to the totality of this tenure. There's been a lot of turnover. It seems like every year he's basically replacing his entire roster. And by the way, that happens in this portal world, but it feels like more so there than other places. The coaching turnover has been insane. And now to your point, Bill, and by the way, he survived NCAA stuff early on.
That's right.
Because of the the IARP thing, and there was a new way of doing things for a while. So it's just been one thing after another. And I think this is probably a sign. I think this is going to be his final year. He's got probably at this point hundreds of millions in the bank, if not at least a comfortable amount of money to live on. It's not working out. There's plenty of problems. And they're not winning enough. They missed the tournament last year. I like their team this year. Don't know that I love them. So I'll be curious because it just feels like the beginning of the end for a program and a team that has been just so up and down and so many questions over the last couple of years.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.